Okay, so it looks like we forgot to plug in the hot mic before the intro. So sorry, y'all missed out on all the fun commentary that was going on right before. We didn't really say anything important. Good morning.
Good morning.
How you doing, Sugar?
Man, I'm great. As soon as we're done here, I'm gonna go get caught up on Polytech. Did you watch them last night? Were they good?
I was wiped out, man.
I was working.
But in good news, I talked a little bit yesterday about the situation with the drone. Yesterday, I went and shot a property. It's actually one that I shot on Friday. I shot the interiors on Friday, and anytime I do one of those packages on the ground, I do have to do exterior shots as part of the package.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if you remember Friday. I can tell you the exteriors on Friday were shit.
Okay.
It was hailing. I'm out there in the hail under an umbrella with my camera. Okay, I got it. They were technically good, but they were as good as you could get while it's hailing. So I told that agent, hey, these exteriors are going to be for shit, but this is a large property. You should get drone footage anyway. Send in the order. I'll be back on Monday. And I went with the newly recovered Mavic 2 yesterday, and she flew like a dream. It gave me a warning that there was some lower stabilization issue that could be corrected with a software update. I came home and did that last night. So that comes to full recovery, and this right here is the paperwork to return the battery that failed.
Yeah, because that's
unacceptable. That battery flew one time. And will never fly again.
Right.
At least not one of my drones. Hopefully Amazon doesn't send it to one of you guys. So, why are we talking about the Hunter Biden laptop again?
Because I like saying I told you so?
Exactly.
I have no... You know how people are like, gosh, I hate to say I told you so.
Not at all.
Yeah. And honestly, I think a lot of those people are lying. It's one of those things where, like, you're supposed to be polite, so you say a certain
With all due respect, shut up. What do you want?
With all due respect, I think you're a moron. Okay. Sure.
Yeah, believe me, when I tell you that I'm going to say something with all of the respect you are due, I absolutely mean it.
Oh, and by the way, if for whatever reason we're suddenly dead on YouTube because reasons,
we're going to go some places.
We're
not going to go quite those places.
But places.
But we're going to go some places.
But we'll be on Rumble.
We are, in fact, currently on Rumble. Live. So if Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, wherever you're watching, a Totoso. Oh, I've never watched Trailer Park Boys. Sorry, Rebel Jack.
You'd either love it or hate it. It is...
I imagine.
Jordan Peterson likes it, and it's...
One of the smartest men I've ever known, Colonel Cecil Hersey, was the one that got me watching Beavis and Butthead when I was a young teenager. It always makes me chuckle when I see smart men watching trash television. And don't get it twisted. I watch me some trash television. Snakes on a Plane may be one of my favorite movies.
Well, it's
Benny and June.
It is trash, but it's clever satirical trash. It's fun.
Strash.
It's
bottom tier satire.
I mean, like in the first episode, a dude doesn't have a place to live, so people chip in and get him a car and a bottle of vodka and a pack of cigarettes, because he's got
staples, the good shit.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Right.
So, the laptop.
Laptop.
We'll go back in the Wayback Machine real quick. It's 2020. The election hasn't happened yet.
But
And
it's
the
fortified.
New York Post releases this bombshell report about a laptop that Hunter Biden abandoned at a service facility. And I'm going to look up something real quick. But the Post gets thrown off of Twitter and censored off of most major social media platforms. And the media and social media establishment, to include the major papers, etc. And the story just gets buried. They go out of their way to bury the story. Now, we talked about the story. Other conservative shows talked about the story. But the thing that you have to understand about how stuff like this works, the Biden voter, the Democrat voter, lives in an absolute information bubble. They talk about echo chambers and bubbles, but by the polling, it's pretty clear that the more conservative, beginning with the independents to the more conservative people are, they tend to get news from multiple sides of the aisle, right? Guys like us, we are reading the New York Times. We're reading the Huffington Post. We're watching CNN and doing that. And then
we deliberately seek out opinions that are contrary to our own.
You deliberately seek out the contrary opinion, the contrary viewpoint. And then we go and look at the more conservative stuff, like the New York Post, like Ben Shapiro, Steven Crowder, what's his name that with the bow tie? Tucker Carlson, right? So, and this isn't an opinion or a suspicion that I have. This is from polling data. The left doesn't do that. People who vote Democrat, they basically just watch CNN and MSNBC, and they read the New York Times and Huffington Post, and as far as they know, that's it. And as far as they understand it and believe, anything outside of that bubble is disinformation or screwball tinfoil hat madness. Yeah, and Steve, I can explain the technicalities of that at some other point, but I don't want to get off track.
So just philosophically speaking, like The Matrix, part of what made that movie so interesting, or the first one at least, was like The Matrix itself was the ultimate version of the cave, right? So,
right.
And there's a hell of a lesson in there, like the Wachowski sisters and their accidental red pilling of God knows how many people. But I say all that to say, the Democrats, the left, like, how do you keep people in the cave? You convince them that they're already outside of it and they know all that there is to know. Like, cave? What cave? You are way already outside the cave. Nightwolf TV. That's a name. I love Twitch names. Like the
And I just had to look this up, and so the New York Post is in fact 50 years older than the New York Times. That's something that's going to be an important part of this conversation and something worth understanding, because the New York Times has long been considered the public record,
the paper of record,
the paper of record.
That's right. If the New York Times says it, the rest of the world is allowed to run with it in
Correct.
good faith.
So the New York Times has now admitted, and because the New York Times is behind an obnoxious paywall and I don't feel like archiving it today, we're going to take a look at Fox News' article about the New York Times. New York Times finally confirms Hunter Biden's laptop after dismissing it amid 2020 campaign. So remember, the New York Times didn't just dismiss it. They ran some articles decrying its validity.
Debunking it.
They debunked it and fact-checked it. Of course, Kamala and all her ilk called it Russian disinformation. No. Turns out the laptop is totally legit. And not only is it totally legit, but the evidence from the laptop seems to suggest that Hunter and Joe's finances are intermingled. So far as they pay each other's bills, and the allegation has even been put forward, based on the forensic evidence from the laptop, that Joe directly funded Hunter's, I think it was 2019, prostitution and heroin and crack binge, in which, as part of which there was the whole thing where he ditched a gun next to a high school.
He threw it away.
Unregistered gun.
I mean, look, there's so much there with the Hunter Biden.
You know,
like, it's difficult
there's been a lot of hoopla. There's been a lot of hoopla about, well, Hunter Biden, irresponsible gun owner, threw a gun away next to a high school. I'm like, I can only think of a few circumstances under which I throw a gun in a trash can. And they all involve having killed somebody.
Yes, that gun was used to commit a crime.
Yeah. Okay, maybe. I can imagine there is a world in which it's possible that Hunter Biden ditched that gun not because he killed somebody with it. Maybe he robbed the liquor store to pay for heroin or crack cocaine or Parmesan cheese.
Okay, haha. But actually, there's a really plausible explanation, and it lines up with the laptop itself. He was just so stoned.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I don't have a lot of frame of reference for what kind of things I would do if I were just completely coked out of my gourd.
And I mean, we watched some of the stuff that was on the laptop, and I mean, we're talking about like literally smoking crack while being serviced by prostitutes, like mid-service,
underage.
Like, well, that part's never been confirmed.
Foot stuff. Okay, you're right. In fairness, it was a little Asian girl, so osmosis is a damn liar. They're 5 until they're 16, and at 16 they're 19 until they're 70, and then they go through osmosis and spread a Q-tip.
Right. So look, and here's the thing: you talk about liars. All right. Here's part of why the story was buried. Okay, and it was because the Wizards are smart. Do you have the letter? Because this is the thing, right? It's not just that there was that the laptop story was buried and that it was put down. No. We had a letter written by the absolute Wizards of Smart, the experts. Okay, and we're not going to go through the whole thing, but basically, we are individuals who devoted significant portions of our lives to national security. Some of us served in senior positions in policy departments and agencies, and some of us served in senior positions in the intelligence community. Some of us were political appointees, and some of us were career officials. Many of us worked for presidents of both political parties. And boy, that aged like milk. We've got all this credibility because we used to work for the insiders at the top. Oh, really?
Turns out.
Turns out. Okay. And look, I'll summarize this letter. This letter basically says, hey, look, don't be an Alex Jones nutbag. There's no there with the Hunter Biden laptop. Okay. There's just not. It doesn't have it. No, that's not Hunter in the homemade porn videos. No, that's not Hunter, and that's not Joe Biden, and that's not the entire Biden family, and that's not Kamala or any of the other people in government when they talk about dirty pay-for-play business deals and Papa Joe gets his cut. And like, seriously, y'all, it's looking like every single rumor you heard about this laptop was actually true. But here's a letter from all of these super smart people that used to work for the president of both political parties. Okay, and so
signed by
Jim Clapper, former Director of National Intelligence, former Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence, former Director of National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, former Director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, all now discredited. Like Mike Hayden, former Director, CIA. You took the thing.
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay, my bad. Mike Hayden, former Director, CIA. Leon Panetta, former Director, CIA. John Brennan, former Director, CIA. That's weird. It's almost like there's a theme here.
That's funny.
Thomas Finger, what an unfortunate name. Former Deputy Director, Rick Leggett, former Deputy Director, National Security. Oh, NSA. They made an appearance. How about that?
Yep. CIA.
John McLaughlin, CIA. Michael Burrell, CIA. Mike Vickers, Doug Wise, Nick Rasmussen, Russ Travers, Andy Leitman.
It goes on. And, obviously the names the names that most of you know are up at the top. Considerable work related to Russia.
Yeah,
by the way, wasn't Russia Russia hasn't been a problem since the 80s, right?
Yeah. Oh, the 80s. The 80s
called.
called. They want their foreign policy back.
I mean, the most intelligent thing that Mitt Romney has ever said in his life is Russia's a threat. Russia's a problem. Russia's a concern.
Anyhow, these 50 people all signed this letter, that is gaslighting, just mwah, right? You don't see the thing that you see, right? No, I'm not crazy, you're crazy. I'm not a liar, you're crazy. Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah. So, I want to bring you back around to this, and then I'm going to make my point, and then, unfortunately, I might have to wrap up a little early, because, damn, I got to get to Peachtree Corners.
A few of those people, well, what else can they do? Yeah, whoops,
exactly.
We're full of shit.
So, poll, right? This is from just a couple days ago. This article was updated this morning. Hey, what do you know? This is a recent one. So, poll: 17% of Biden voters would have abandoned him if they knew about stories the media censored. As many as 17% of those who voted for Democrat Joe Biden might have chosen differently at the polls had they been given fair media coverage of the candidates in the weeks leading up to the election, according to a report. Now, this is from the Western Journal, and here's what. So let me make the important point here. We saw the investigations on Russiagate. We saw the investigations on Ukrainegate, et cetera, et cetera.
Seeing the ongoing January 6th.
We see the ongoing January 6th investigations, wherein a large number of Americans are having their civil liberties absolutely trodden upon in stark violation of the law by political agents, political hacks. And like Dad says here, Steve, you're right. They should be doxxed. In every case that someone is doxxed, in every case that you dox someone intentionally, you are attempting murder. And so, yes, Dad, I'm totally comfortable with your statement. I hope that wasn't too unclear, but I think I've dodged the algorithm with it. So, anyway.
Well, look, it's not, you can't dox these people. They signed the letter. They wanted all of us to read the letter. They put their credibility on the line. They said, no, I used to work for the NSA or the CIA or whatever.
At the end of the letter, it says there are 9 other IC professionals who cannot be named here for security purposes.
Oh, well.
Yeah. The rest of them, you can't, you don't need to dox them. We know where they are.
On CNN.
Well, I mean...
No, Clapper's a contributor for CNN.
I know, but his house is also public record. They can't... It's hard to dox somebody when they're a public figure. A significant public figure.
It's true.
So, we've seen the investigations, and here's what I'm alleging. The thing that happened in 2020 related to the story about Hunter Biden's laptop was a coordinated act. And when you're talking about a coordinated act to commit a crime, that is a conspiracy. Perpetrating fraud is also a crime. Now, in order to have a crime, right, first thing they teach you in law school is crime is harm. If you're going to make a criminal allegation, you have to show that the illicit action, as described, caused harm. You have to clearly delineate and define what the nature and the cost of that harm was, whether or not that cost is reparable or recoverable, and you have to name a victim who suffered that harm. For an example of how this gets convoluted, the regulation of substances is only managed by the absolutely absurd argument that the victim of any substance use, of any individual given substance use, regardless of its trade origination, is society at large. But in this case, there is a clear victim. Because you filled up your tank for more than $4 a gallon in recent memory. In this case, there is a clear victim. Because you voted. And you voted with full knowledge.
Or thought
And made an intelligent decision. And these people had that stolen from them. And they had it stolen from them by, and I've just laid out the definitions of the individual pieces of the allegation so that I can say in full confidence that they had that choice, their freedom and their right, stolen from them by a conspiracy to defraud the American people. One might even call it an action conducted by a shadowy cabal for the purposes of fortifying an election.
What? Are you saying they're turning the frickin' frogs gay?
One might call it that. And by one, I mean...
Not us.
That was that Time? Was that Time magazine that called it the shadowy cabal? Oh no!
It'd be the same thing that put
I have
Hitler...
to double check. I have to double check the shadowy cabal.
The same thing that, well, whatever. You know why you think about Time in the... Yep, I think so. You know why you think Time magazine in these things, though? Because they're the same thing that put Hitler on the cover. And the protester.
Yeah, it was Time.
Right.
Yeah. So
Totally.
Time magazine described how the election was fortified. So here's what I want to see relative to the Hunter Biden laptop situation. I want to see an investigation which alleges that Time magazine, as well as Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, New York Times, CNN, every individual Democrat that said as much, including Joseph Robinette Biden, who explicitly stated that those are lies on national television, on the public debate stage with Donald Trump, more than once, stated explicitly, those are lies, that's Russian misinformation, that's Russian disinformation, that's not true, there is no laptop, etc., 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 of conspiracy to defraud the American people. That is a very serious crime. I would go so far as to describe it, because the law does, as a high crime. Similar to that bar for which we expect to meet the high disregard of impeachment. So, that's what I want to close on. Do you have any closing comments before we wrap it up? And
I know, you got things to do.
To places.
Right. But make money.
It's going to be a good day.
Yeah, make money. So, well, actually, one thing. Find us on Rumble.
Yeah. It looks like we're still. I think it looks like we're still on YouTube.
Yeah,
I'm
let's
still
see.
seeing comments.
Well, let's check it in about 12 hours and see if we have a strike. So,
yeah, we'll see how that goes. And
who knows?
And if we get struck, I'll write an appeal, because throughout the entire course of this episode, I never actually said that the election wasn't legitimate.
Total legit.
I'm talking about political tampering that happened quite separately from the election itself. And it's not a question. This isn't a theory. This isn't some crackpot tinfoil hat conspiracy theory like the idea that Russia stole the 2016 election, which has been repeated over and over again. This is no. The New York Times has now had to fall back on, sorry guys, we got this one wrong. Turns out
Whoops,
the Biden laptop was totally legit.
It might have been real.
100% real.
Oops.
And the allegation that I cannot prove explicitly that I will put here is, it's my suspicion that the New York Times knew this to begin with.
Oh.
They lied with full knowledge of the truth, because the alternative is to suggest that professional journalists engaged in fact-checking to verify the veracity of the claim related to the laptop and legitimately came to the conclusion that there was no there. And now that we see that that's not the case, then it makes me question either the professionalism, the effectiveness of those journalists journalisming, whether or not they're competent, which I think is pretty much in question generally, or that the other alternative is they were involved in a conspiracy to defraud the American people with full knowledge and with full knowledge, forethought, and they made the choice to defraud you. My prediction is there will be no consequences for their actions because Democrats are evil and Republicans are weak. But we need to make demands. We need to petition our government for a redress of grievances. Having been defrauded by a mass conspiracy that clearly involves one major political party who, as a result of their engagement in this conspiracy to defraud the American people, have gone to take power in the highest office in the land. That is a scandal beyond scandals. There will be no consequences, but that is a grievance that must be redressed, and we must petition to demand such a redress. Y'all be safe out there, and we will see you tomorrow.